All Blacks versus England at the home of rugby, Twickenham. The most important game for New Zealand in this end of year tour fixture list coming forward. This game versus England. Firstly, it sets up, you win this, it sets up the rest of your series to a good start. On the other side, if you lose this game, All Blacks lose this game, Ireland next week doesn't get easier. France the week after that doesn't get any easier at all. So this game sets it all up, and I can't wait for it. Before we get into it, let me know in the comments what you guys think of the two teams named. How do you think this game is going to play out? Oh man, what's your score predictions? Let me know in the comments. Hit that subscribe while you're there. Let's get into it. So big thanks to Short Ball Rugby. Give him a follow on Instagram for these graphics. So our head-to-head, All Blacks have won 35, England have won 8, and there's been 2 draws. The last 5 were All Blacks win in 2018, England win 2019, a draw in 2022, and then the previous 2 tests this year that was played in New Zealand, both going to the All Blacks, but very, very tight. So only by 1 point in the first test and then by 7 points in the second test. We'll run through the teams quickly. So we'll look at both. I'll put both teams up next to each other, but we look at that English side. Man, this is a very, very strong English side. Ellis Genge, Jamie George, Will Stewart, Maro Itoje, George Martin, Chandler Cunningham South, Tom Curry and Ben Earl, and then the backline of Ben Spencer, Marcus Smith, Ollie Lawrence, Henry Slade, Tommy Freeman, Emmanuel Faya-Waboso, and George Furbank. Reserves there are Theo Danfin, Baxter, Dan Cole, Nick Ezekwe, Ben Curry, Alex Dombrandt, Harry Randall, and George Ford. A 6-2 split there. Very interesting. And then jumping over to the All Black side, Tamaiti Williams, Cody Taylor, Tyrell Lomax, Scott Barrett, Tupou Vai, Wallace Atiti, Sam Kane, Artie Savia, Cortez Ratima, Bowden Barrett, Geordie Barrett, Rico Ioane, and then back three of Caleb Clark, Mark Talia, and Will Jordan. Impact of Asafo Moa, Ofa Tuangafasi, Basilio Tossi, Patrick Tuipolotu, Samipeni Finau, Cam Roygard, Anton Leonard-Brown, and Damian McKenzie. Very, very strong sides, both of them, with full strength sides. There is not going to be any excuses or question marks around sides picked. These two sides are the best of the best in their country at the moment, and it's great. You love that as an English or All Black fan. You love that. You want the best guys out on the field, and then same for man that's just watching that isn't invested or doesn't support England or New Zealand. You want the best guys out on the field, and like I've said before, this is one of the games they would play in rugby heaven. New Zealand versus England at Twickenham. Love it. We touch on the England. What biggest interesting point for me with this England squad is the 6-2 split on the bench. We rarely see that. Outside of the Springboks, we rarely see a side go for a 6-2 split. Obviously leaning towards stronger forwards or rotating more of their forwards later on in the game. Have probably looked at past games of New Zealand and seeing where the little chinks in the chain are. And the biggest chink in the New Zealand chain at the moment is those last 20 minutes, those last 30 minutes where they really fall off a cliff. We even seen it in the Japan game last weekend. Went out to an almost 50-point lead. Last 20, 30 minutes. Didn't score any points. Yes, they scored 2 tries right at the back end of the game, but really fell off a cliff, throwing the ball around, not holding onto the ball. You see it in the Rugby Championship where versus Argentina lose it in the back end, really struggle in the back end of games against the Springboks as well. Go out to a big lead, or not a big lead, but go out to a lead and then lose the game in the back end of the game. And I've said this before as well, it's an interesting thought or kind of how New Zealand rugby has changed, because back in the day, that's when they used to put teams to the sword. That's when they used to put all their points on, was those last 20 minutes. Now they're really struggling in those last 20 minutes, and opposition teams are seeing that. With England now putting on the 6-2 split, they're obviously going like, hey, let's apply pressure up front in those last 20 minutes. Let's get our piggies to go as hard as they can for those first 40, 50 minutes, and let's change pretty much our whole forward pack. Looking at those reserves, so you got Theo Dan comes on as hooker, Finn Baxter and Dan Cole, that's your whole front row. Then Ezekwe, lock, and then Ben Curry and Dombrand, your back rowers. So that's almost that's 6. So 2 guys will stay on. You'd say Moro Toje will stay on for the whole game, hopefully, and then someone like Ben Earl will stay on for the whole game. And the rest of that forward pack will get swapped out. It'll be like their mini bomb squad coming on to put the nail in the coffin, hopefully, for England. Biggest talking point for New Zealand is obviously Beauden Barrett starting at 10 over Damien McKenzie. Best player in the world, I'm clutching at straws, 2018 or 17 or around that time. Beauden Barrett was at fly-off. I don't know why they changed him to fullback. I do like him when he comes on at fullback, or when he plays fullback, or when he comes off the bench. But you like him coming on the field. Beauden Barrett just needs to be on the field. He is a baller at 10. I think the difference he brings to McKenzie, obviously his experience that he has there, but as a 10 who's played 10 his whole life, Beauden Barrett now, his first few steps he takes with the ball, or even just before he gets the ball, is straight, maybe even sometimes back towards the ball. That just straightens up your whole line of attack. It draws their defenders in, because they're even the inside centre, the outside centre will look up like, oh shit, they're going in, let's draw in this way. And that straightens up everything on attack for All Blacks, giving the space to those guys out wide. So that's one thing that I have noticed, the difference between Damien McKenzie and Beauden Barrett. Sometimes McKenzie likes to drift, and it works a lot of the time, because he'll drift. He might draw a few players in, and you've got guys running straight off him or guys coming under, but you can't do that all the time. I'd rather have a straight running fly-off that's drawing up defenders than a fly-off that's drifting across the back line. All right, my matchups for this game. My first big one is Ben Earl versus Ardie Savia. In the week, we had Ardie Savia talking praise, just all praise for Ben Earl, which is like, Ardie Savia is that type of player, is that type of bloke, is that type of player as well. He's all for praising opposition or even his own teammates, which he did with Wallace Atiti this week. But they just both, those players, in the form of their life at the moment. Ben Earl, this last few years, I'd say this last couple of years, has just come out of his shell. Brilliant over the ball, brilliant with ball in hand. His work rate on defense as well, fantastic. And it's literally like for like. I think Ardie Savia brings a bit more with ball in hand, but the amount of work both of these guys get through is unreal. It's like the Peter Steph du Toit for Springboks, the Ardie Savia for England, for All Blacks, of course, and then the Ben Earl for England. The amount of work these guys get through for their team, man, you want them in your side. And then obviously the big one for me is Beauden Barrett versus Marcus Smith. Both guys looking to pull the shots, pull the strings, the puppet masters at the top. The biggest key for this is going to be which forward pack is going forward. If your forward pack is going forward, your life as a 10 is easy, fella. It's easy. You can sit back and just do what you want. You're getting over that advantage line. You're winning your lineouts, your scrums. Every ruck, it's fast, good, quick ball. You're just in the pocket or up in the line, just doing what you want. You got the ball on the string. You feel like you've got all the time in the world because your forwards are just going forward. On the other hand, if your forwards are going backward, you're losing scrums, your lineout's gone to shit, your rucks, you're struggling at ruck time, You come around the corner, you get the ball, you look up, you've got no options to play. You're getting tackled behind the advantage line. It becomes a long, long day at the office. So whoever gets the upper hand at 10 is going to be directly because of the forwards getting their upper hand. And it's gonna be huge. All Blacks fans, I love you guys, but I'm picking England to win this one by 1 point. All Blacks fans are probably going to come for me in the comments, but I've always said I'm going to call it as I see it, what I think it is. I like to stay straight down the middle, but I think in Twickenham, this England players have all been in fine form for their premiership sides. The All Blacks, a lot of guys haven't been playing rugby since the Rugby Championship. Yes, that break might have been a good thing for them, or will it prove costly? Who knows? It's going to be huge. It's going to be huge. Let me know in the comments your predictions. Well, how do you think this game's going to go? And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.